Hello everyone, welcome back to the slightly modded, slightly roleplay Skyrim playthrough. If you didn't see the first video, it's linked in the description, but basically we have only just entered Whiterun and we are still level 1. Anyway, that's enough of an intro, please enjoy. I wake up after somehow having a good sleep in the inn, despite the bard's continued singing. It had been a day since the dragon's assault on Helgen, and I was yet to petition to the Jarl to send some guards to Riverwood on Alvor's behalf. I leave the inn at the exact same time as everyone else does, and I make my way up the stairs to DragonsReach. When inside, I am halted by what I assume to be the Jarl's head guard. I explain the situation to her, then the Jarl sent me to the court's resident wizard to help out.
What?
He eventually tells me that the stone should be found in the main burial chamber in Bleakfalls Barrow, and sends me away to retrieve it.
Simplicity itself.
Leaving DragonsReach with a new mission to complete, I start heading to the gates of Whiterun when I am stopped by a courier who gives me a letter. I did not know what to make of the letter. I think it sounded like a challenge to a duel. It did not interest me. At least not enough to pursue it in this moment. However, I kept the note. The sender mentioned that they knew my story, so they must be dealt with eventually. I put the note away and continue to exit Whiterun. I then have a stroke of genius and look to hire a mercenary. The only mercenary I could find was too expensive, so I decided that I will go to the tavern to find work. The only work I was offered was to complete a bounty on a bandit leader. Again, I would not do this unless I had a companion for backup. I searched Whiterun to hopefully find another mercenary, but I was unable to find anyone willing to come to Bleakfalls Barrow. I soon realised that I was purposely delaying the quest, and so swallowed my fear and set out. Wearing the Imperial armour, I made my way past Whiterun and continues the path up the mountain to Bleakfalls Barrow. Bandits. They seemed to have control of a little watchtower, and they denied access further up the mountain, tried to slowly walk past the orc. Of course it did not work. I was attacked by said orc. We engaged in a duel, and I came out victorious. However, the commotion brought out two of his allies, both of which then attacked. I charged at the archer, and within seconds I killed another person. Now I was alone with the armoured bandit. I assumed it was their leader, but I must have assumed wrong. We fought on the bridge, and they were put down faster than the orc, who I first defeated. I lowered my blade and took the iron armour from the corpse. After all, it was not theirs to begin with, and I decided to search the tower. I took everything that I deemed of value, as the bandits did not need it anymore, and I continued off to the barrow. I reached Bleakfalls Barrow and was attacked again by a couple of bandits. The first two bandits were defeated without much trouble, but the final archer was smart in his attack. He kept his distance, and when almost defeated, he faked to surrender. He too was felled, and I entered the barrow. Again I was attacked by a couple of bandits, and again I slayed them without remorse and continued through the barrow. I soon neared a room where a lone bandit walked towards a lever. He was put to death by tens of arrows after he pulled the lever. I took the steel sword from the now dead bandit, and I quickly realised that the gate required some pillars to be in a certain combination, and that the combination was pretty obvious. Either that or I'm just mega smart. I did it, and then pulled the lever, and the gate opened. I continued through it and down a spiral staircase, soon coming to a room that's doorway had been blocked by web. I destroyed the web and entered as a huge spider dropped from the ceiling. I rushed to attack the spider, but took some hits and chose to retreat. I watched the spider in fear, knowing that I had to defeat it to progress, yet it was somehow stronger than the bandits I had encountered. I formulated a plan, and charged it again with two weapons. Even this was not enough, so I chose to do what I swore I'd never do again. I defied the laws of time, and then drank several potions of health while time stood still. This was the edge I needed to defeat the spider. I cut down a trapped bandit from some webs, as they were blocking where I had to go. I walked after Armour to see some Draugr emerge from their rest. The Draugr seized me and attacked. Once again, these creatures were tougher to slay than the bandits. I catch back up to Armour. I checked his pockets and find a golden claw. I take it, as well as his journal. I continue down the barrow, battling Draugr, looting chests, until I eventually go through a gate that leads to a cave. I enter more ruins and come across a restless Draugr. It dies. I continue through the doors and down the tunnels. Once again I have to dodge some swinging blades, and I enter a room where I'm ambushed again. I defeat the Draugr and enter some wooden doors, which brings me to a room with yet another door. I get to the stone door and notice it needs another combination to open. I try the golden claw and it fits into the keyhole. I read Arvold's journal, which gives me the answers to open the door. Finally I enter what I think is the final chamber. I make my way to the chest, which is where I assumed the stone would be. But before I opened it, I was called to turn around and face a glowing wall. As I got close, I was filled with some weird knowledge of a word that I could not muster the energy to speak. I thought that was weird, but I was interrupted by a Draugr. This Draugr was harder to fight than the other ones. It was stronger, used a shield, and attacked with a weird power that I had never encountered. But even that was defeated by some cold steel entering its chest. I took the dragonstone from its corpse, along with its weapon that radiated with power, and I looked for a way out. Conveniently, there was a hidden wall, which, with the pull of a lever, opened into a cave. I entered said cave, found a chest with some new armour, took the new armour, and left the cave on the mountainside at night. I walked through the night, and when it was day, I finally entered Riverwood. I first visited Alvor. I sold him armour and weapons I should no longer need, and I then entered the Riverwood Trader to return the golden claw.
You're back from
For my
Bleakfalls.
troubles, I got a hefty sum of 400 gold and a bit of praise. I left the trader and continued walking the path to Whiterun. On the path, I encountered some elves transporting a prisoner. I was threatened by the two guards, so I spoke to the one in charge to see what they was doing and to reassure them that I meant no harm. It didn't matter. I was attacked while talking to her, and with an inflated ego, I stood my ground against the two warriors and the mage. Eventually, I had to turn tail and run. I hoped the elves would give up, but they followed me down the path. I ran until I got to a city guard and stood my ground, hoping the guard would help. He did not. The fight was harder than those in Bleakfalls Barrow. At one point I stopped time in order to heal my wounds with a level up. Once again, this allowed me to win, and I slayed the elves. But this was not allowed. The guard who I sought for help gave me a bounty of 1,000 gold. I did not want to fight, nor did I want to go to jail, so I paid it off with the majority of the gold I took from the barrows. After the guards checked to see if I had any confiscated goods, they released me, and I made my way to DragonsReach to hand in the dragonstone. I was waiting for my reward when a dragon was sighted close to Whiterun, which is where I'm ending today's video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye.